It started like any other Saturday morning. I woke up late, grabbed a coffee, and stood by the window, just soaking in the sun. No alarms, no emails, just peace. I love my weekends like that. Quiet, uneventful, calm. But that morning had other plans for me. I walked down to the kitchen, flipped on some music, and started making breakfast. Eggs, toast the usual. I didn't even glance outside at first. I didn't need to. My garage is detached, just a few steps away from the back door, and I hadn't planned on going anywhere that day. But then, I remembered I had left some tools in the garage the night before. Nothing major, just a drill I borrowed from a friend. I figured I'd put it back before I forgot. So, I grabbed the keys and stepped outside. It was sunny, but the air was crisp. You know that feeling when the weather is perfect and everything just feels, right? That's where I was, completely at peace. I got to the garage and went to unlock it, but when I pulled the door up, I stopped. There it was. A car. Not mine. Not anyone I recognized. Just sitting there like it belonged. At first, I froze. You know when something doesn't make sense, and your brain can't process it fast enough? That was me. I stared at the car for a solid 10 seconds. Just try to figure out if I had somehow forgotten something important. Maybe I let someone use my garage and just didn't remember? Maybe my cousin? A friend? But no, that wasn't it. I hadn't spoken to anyone about the garage in weeks. And even if I had, who would just park there without saying a word? The car was small, red, and clean. Way too clean for someone sneaking around. There were no signs of a break-in either. No scratches. No force lock. Just parked there like everything was normal. I took a step back and looked around, expecting someone to pop out and say, "Oh, sorry," just grabbing something. But no one came. The whole street was quiet. Birds chirping, trees swaying, and this random car sitting smugly in my garage. I walked around it slowly, checking if maybe there was a note, a number, anything. Nothing. The windows were slightly tinted, but I could see inside. A jacket on the passenger seat. A cup in the holder. Someone had parked here recently, and they'd clearly planned to stay a while. Now, I'm not someone who jumps to anger right away. I like to think I'm reasonable. So I took a breath, pulled out my phone, and texted my immediate neighbors. "Hey, do you know whose red car is in my garage?" Simple. Direct. One by one, they responded. "Nope, not mine. We're out of town. You have a car in your garage?" Helpful, right? Now my mind started to spin. I live in a quiet neighborhood. We all know each other by name. People wave, borrow sugar, that kind of place. So this felt wrong. Violated, even not in a dramatic way. But like someone had crossed a line without even bothering to check if it was okay. I thought about calling the cops, but it felt too early for that. I didn't want to make a big deal out of something that might have a simple explanation. So instead, I grabbed a sticky note from the kitchen and wrote, "Hey, this is private property. Please don't park here without asking. Call me. Number." I stuck it on the driver's side window and closed the garage. Locked it. I figured that would do the trick. Whoever was would see the note and, hopefully, do the decent thing. I went back inside, made another coffee, and tried to forget about it. But the whole thing kept bothering me. The way they just parked there like they owned it, like it was no big deal. Who does that? By evening, I hadn't gotten a call. Nothing. I went back out, unlocked the garage, and checked the note. Still there. Still untouched. Which meant whoever parked there hadn't even come back. Now it was starting to feel deliberate. The next day, the car was still there. I didn't want to obsess over it. But, come on. It's my garage. I started walking around the neighborhood more, trying to see if there was a new face or maybe someone moving in. And that's when I saw her. Across the street, 2 houses down. A young woman carrying a box into a house that had been empty for months. She was struggling a bit, so I offered to help, just being neighborly. She smiled, thanked me, and introduced herself. Let's call her Maya. We chatted for a bit. She said she just moved in the day before. I asked the usual questions, where she moved from, if she needed anything, stuff like that. She seemed nice. polite, grateful even. I wanted to ask about the car. I almost did, but something held me back. Maybe it was her tone or how overwhelmed she looked. I figured I'd wait and see if she brought up herself. But she didn't. Not that day. Not the next. And the car? Still parked in my garage. Still untouched. Still locked inside. By now it had been 3 days. 3 full days of pretending this wasn't happening. I started checking my camera footage to see when it had even been parked. Turns out it rolled in late Friday night, around 11:40 p.m. Headlights off, smooth, like someone trying not to be seen. That bothered me more than anything. It wasn't just careless, it was sneaky. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept going over the situation in my head. Should I go knock on her door? Ask her straight up? Should I just unlock the garage and leave the door open? Let her come and get it? Or should I do something else? And that's when the idea hit me. Not out of anger, but out of pure frustration. I tried being nice. I'd left a note. I'd asked around. I even helped her move in. Still nothing. No apology. No explanation. So I thought, fine. If she wants to use my garage without asking, let's see how she likes it. When she can't get her car out, I locked the garage. Double-checked everything. Packed my bags for a small trip I had already been planning. A week away to visit family. And I left. No warning. No message. No drama. Just left. And let me tell you, the silence was powerful. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about being mean. It was about boundaries. Respect. The kind people seem to forget when they think no one's watching. The first day away, nothing happened. No calls. No texts. But on day 2, things started to change. The second morning of my trip started just like the first. Quiet, peaceful, and without a single message or missed call. I sat on the porch of my parents' place, sipping coffee, staring at trees swaying in the wind, and wondering how long it would take before the silence broke. I kept checking my phone. Nothing. It was almost funny. I had expected some kind of chaos by now. At least a text from a confused neighbor. But there was nothing. As if the world had just accepted that someone else's car had magically disappeared into a garage, and everyone was fine with that. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Maya, the girl with a friendly smile and tired eyes. I kept replaying our short conversation in my mind, trying to find some sign that she knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't seem like someone who would intentionally cross a line, but people surprise you, especially when they think they won't get caught. By the afternoon, my phone finally buzzed. A message popped up from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, this is Maya. I think my car is in your garage. Can we talk? There it was. I stared at the message for a while. I didn't answer right away. My heart was beating a little faster, not out of fear, but from that strange thrill of knowing the moment I'd been waiting for had arrived. She finally noticed. She finally needed something. I waited for a few minutes. Then I replied, Hi, Maya. Yes, it is. I left a note on it a few days ago. Didn't hear anything back. She replied almost instantly, I'm so sorry. I didn't see the note. I didn't even realize you lived there. Can I come get the car? No explanation. No real apology either. Not the kind that feels sincere. Just a soft excuse, tossed in casually. I could almost hear her tone in the message. Try and stay calm. Try and keep it light. I thought about what to say. There were 1,000 ways I could play it, but I kept it simple. I'm out of town right now. Garage is locked. Her reply took longer this time. Oh, when will you be back? I didn't answer. Not right away. I turned off my phone and slipped it in my pocket. I needed some space. I needed her to sit with it for a while. I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't being unfair. I was just letting her feel what it's like when your space, your things, are in someone else's hands, and they don't care. That evening, I turned my phone back on. 2 missed calls. 1 voicemail. Hey, it's Maya again. I really need my car. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just didn't know where else to park that night. Can we please figure something out? Her voice sounded nervous. A little rushed, but still no real ownership of what she'd done. Just discomfort now that she needed something. I felt a weird mix of emotions, satisfaction, irritation, and a small tug of guilt, not because I had done anything wrong, but because it was so clear she hadn't expected anyone to push back. I didn't return the call. Not that night. Not the next one either. I wanted to see what she'd do. By day 4, the calls kept coming. Sometimes short and direct. Other times rambling. She started texting more too. Please, I need to get to work. I didn't know it was yours. I'm really sorry. My job's on the line. The tone shifted quickly, from casual to desperate, from mildly apologetic to borderline panicked. I wasn't ignoring her to be cold. I just wanted her to feel what I had felt, the confusion, the frustration, the helplessness of seeing someone use your space without asking and then acting like it wasn't a big deal. I had spent days wondering who the car belonged to, wondering if someone had broken in, wondering if I'd done something wrong by even caring. Now it was her turn. One text stood out to me more than the others. I thought it was just an empty garage. I didn't know people actually used those. I just moved in and couldn't find street parking. It was late. I was exhausted. That one stuck with me. Not because it made it okay, but because it revealed something deeper. She didn't think it mattered. Not really. She looked at the garage and assumed no one used it. So it was fair game. That tiny choice to assume was the real issue. And that's when I realized she probably didn't think she'd ever have to explain herself. She didn't think there'd be consequences. Just a convenient spot on a hard night. I sat with that for a while. Thought about all the small things people do that step over invisible lines. Borrow something without asking. Take credit for something small. Use someone's time or space like it's owed to them. It's always just this once, or no big deal, but adds up. That night, I finally texted her back. I understand you were tired, but it's still my property. I left a note. You ignored it. You parked in my space without permission. That's not okay. She replied almost instantly. I know. You're right. I messed up. I was just so overwhelmed from the move. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. There it was. The first real moment of honesty. I waited before answering. When I get back, we'll talk. But until then, the car stays. She didn't reply for a while. Then just sent, okay. Something about that, okay, felt different. Not defeated, not angry. Just still, like she was finally understanding the weight of what had happened. The next day, my neighbor sent me a picture. Maya standing outside the garage, phone in hand, pacing. Then sitting on the curb, arms crossed. Then just waiting. She must have tried calling again, but I didn't pick up. By day 6, I started feeling the edge of the strange power shift. It wasn't about holding the car hostage. It was about something more subtle. I had drawn a line, and for once, someone had to stay on the other side of it. I wasn't chasing her down. I wasn't apologizing for being upset. I was just standing my ground. It felt new. I'd always been the kind of person who lets things slide, keeps the peace, avoids confrontation. But this time I didn't. I'd been kind. I'd been clear. And when that didn't work, I created distance. And suddenly, that distance was doing the talking for me. Maya's last message before I returned home was simple. I get it. I really do. And I promise it won't happen again. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it had been exactly 7 days since I'd locked that garage. A full week of silence, space, and a kind of invisible standoff. The air felt different now. Tense, expectant. I sat in the car for a moment before stepping out. Everything looked normal, quiet even, but I knew she was probably watching from a window, or maybe pacing inside, waiting for the sound of my keys, unlocking that door. I walked slowly toward the garage. The same one I'd opened 100 times without thinking. Only this time, I could feel the weight of it. Every step felt like a statement. My hand touched the lock. I paused just for a second. I could already imagine the relief on her face when she heard the door finally open. But I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing it for me. To reclaim the space that should never have been invaded in the first place. I opened it slowly. The same red car sat there, exactly where I'd left it. Still spotless. still out of place. I didn't touch anything. I didn't move the car. I just stood there, staring at it, breathing in the stale air that had built up inside. Then, behind me, I heard her voice. "Hey!" I turned around, and there she was, Maya, standing a few feet back, looking nervous. Her eyes shifted between me and the car, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to come closer. She had her phone in her hand, but her fingers weren't moving, just gripping it like a lifeline. I didn't say anything at first, just looked at her. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, but emotionally. Her energy was different now. Humbled, maybe, or just exhausted from a week of wondering. "I just wanted to say sorry," she said softly. Again, I nodded, still silent. I know what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have parked there. I don't know what I thought, honestly. That no one would notice? That it didn't matter? Her voice cracked a little at the end. Not dramatically. Just enough to let me hear the truth in it. "I didn't mean to cause all this," she said. "But I guess I did." I leaned against the side of the garage and crossed my arms. "You didn't ask. You didn't even look for the owner. You just assumed." She looked down. "Yeah, I did." I could see she wanted to explain more, maybe justify it. Maybe tell me about how hard the move was, how late it was at night, how stressed she'd been. But she didn't. And honestly, I respected that more than anything she could have said. Owning it, not running from it. "I've never had neighbors before," she added, after a long pause. "Not like this. I came from a building where no one talked. You just took what space you could find. I guess I brought that with me." I nodded slowly. This isn't that kind of neighborhood. I know that now. I stepped aside and gestured toward the car. "It's all yours." She walked past me, carefully, like she didn't want to disturb the air between us. She opened the car door, slid in, and sat there for a moment without starting the engine, just sitting. Her hands rested on the wheel, but she didn't move. Then, to my surprise, she rolled down the window. "I felt trapped," she said quietly. "This whole week. I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, just waiting." I looked at her. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I saw it in my garage. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I think she really got it. She started the car, backed out slowly, and then stopped at the edge of the driveway. She looked back one last time. "I won't forget this," she said. "Thank you for not doing worse." I didn't answer, just gave her a short nod. And then she was gone. I stood there for a while after the sound of her engine faded, just letting the quiet settle back in. The garage felt empty again, but not in a bad way. In a clean way, like something had been cleared out that wasn't supposed to be there. I closed the door, locked it, and walked back into the house. Later that night, I sat on my porch, watching the street. I saw her lights turn on across the way. No car in her driveway now. Maybe she found proper parking. Maybe she'd learned her lesson. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even holding on to it. I just felt, still, like I'd done something I needed to do, not just for the situation, but for myself. Most people don't set out to be selfish. They don't wake up and think, "I'm going to cross a line today." They just act in the moment, without thinking, without asking. And sometimes it takes something uncomfortable, something inconvenient, for them to realize it. What she did wasn't the end of the world, but it said something about boundaries, about assumptions, about what people think they're entitled to when no one tells them otherwise. For once, I hadn't let it slide. And for once, someone noticed. The next few days were quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in after something heavy has been lifted. I'd gotten used to glancing at the garage, half expecting that red car to be there. But it wasn't. Just a smooth, uninterrupted concrete floor, and the echo of space being respected again. Funny how you never realize how much something small can mess with your peace until it's gone. I walked past Maya's house once or twice, out of habit more than curiosity. Her blinds were usually drawn. No sounds coming out. Not even the usual shuffle of moving boxes or rearranged furniture like before. Just silence. Stillness. Like the house was holding its breath. I never expected her to come by again. She'd already said her piece, apologized, took her car and left. That could have been it. And for most people it would have been. But one evening, as I was pulling weeds out by the sidewalk, I heard footsteps. Light ones. Hesitant. "Hey," she said. I looked up. She was standing a few feet away, wearing an oversized hoodie, arms cross-tied over her chest. Not cold, just nervous. "I'm not here to bother you," she said quickly. I've been thinking about everything, and I felt like maybe I owed you more than just an apology." I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure if she wanted conversation, or just to get something off her chest. "I've lived in a lot of places," she went on. "Apartments, mostly. Places where nobody talked. Nobody looked you in the eye. And I guess when I moved here, I didn't really think about how different it would be. I brought all my bad habits with me." She paused and looked down at the sidewalk. "That night, I parked in your garage. I didn't even hesitate. I saw it. I was tired, and I just took it. It didn't even register that I might be taking something from someone else. That's what scared me most afterward. Not that you locked it or that I couldn't get my car, but that I'd turn into someone who doesn't think before crossing a line." She glanced up, searching my face for a reaction. I stayed quiet, letting her talk. "You didn't scream. You didn't leave angry notes or make a scene. You just did something that forced me to stop and think. And I needed that." I was still listening, still trying to decide what to say. I wasn't used to this kind of honesty. Most people would have just moved on, pretended nothing happened. She took a small step closer. "I don't know if this means anything, but I baked something for you." She held up a small box, awkward and lopsided, but clearly homemade. I took it without a word. She didn't force it into my hands, just held it out with a kind of quiet humility. "I'm not trying to make up for what I did with brownies or anything," she added, a little sheepishly. "It's just something my mom used to do when she felt like she messed up. A small gesture. I don't expect anything from you. Just thought maybe it would mean something." I nodded slowly. "Thank you." That was all I said. And honestly, it was enough. She turned to go, but stopped after a few steps. "I'm trying to be a better neighbor," she said, not turning around. "Trying to be someone who asks before taking space." And then she walked away. I took the box inside, set it on the counter, and just stared at it for a while. It wasn't about the brownies. It wasn't even about the apology anymore. It was the fact that she came back, that she owned her mistake twice, even when she didn't have to. It made me think about how many people never get that chance. Or worse, never care enough to offer it. I ended up eating one. They weren't perfect. A little too much cinnamon, maybe, but they tasted like something real. Something made by someone who cared enough to try. That weekend, I finally started cleaning out the garage for real. I'd been putting it off for months. Boxes, old furniture, random stuff I didn't need anymore. The whole place had become a dumping ground. Funny how something like this can jolt you into action. Every time I carried a box to the curb, I felt lighter, like I was letting go of things I didn't need, physically and mentally. Around the Ford trip, I noticed her watching from her porch, not hiding, just sitting there with a cup of something warm. I nodded. She raised her cup slightly in return. That was it, a silent exchange of peace. From then on, things changed subtly. We didn't become best friends. We didn't hang out, but she'd wave when she saw me. I'd nod back. One time, I caught her pulling in groceries and offered to hold the door. She smiled, said thanks. Nothing dramatic, just human moments, the kind that remind you people can change. I noticed she never parked on the street again, always used her own driveway, always left plenty of space around others, like she'd made herself a rule and planned to stick to it. One morning, a package got delivered to my place by mistake. Her name was on it. I dropped it off on her porch and rang the bell. She opened the door in a rush, clearly surprised to see me. "Oh, thank you. No problem," I said. "Looks like the mail guy got confused." She took it and then paused. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." She smiled. "Still, thanks." And then something happened that I didn't expect. She stepped aside. "You want to come in for a minute?" I hesitated, not because I was mad or uncomfortable, but because it had been a long time since anyone invited me in like that. No expectation, no pressure, just an open door. I stepped in. The place was still half finished. Boxes stacked, some rooms bare, but it had warmth. Books on a table, a half-decorated wall, the smell of coffee lingering in the air. We talked, just for a little while, about nothing major. The neighborhood, the weather, the noisy dog 3 houses down. Small stuff, normal stuff, but it felt like something had been patched. Not perfectly, not instantly, but honestly. When I left, she walked me to the door. "I'm glad you locked the garage," she said quietly. I turned to her, surprised. "Why?" "Because if you hadn't, I might never have known how careless I was, or how important that line really is." I nodded, and then she said something that stuck with me long after. People talk a lot about forgiveness, but nobody talks about the space between the mistake and the making it right. That's the part that hurts the most, but also the part that teaches you who you really are. I didn't respond. I just walked home, feeling something inside me shift. It wasn't about a garage anymore. It was about understanding that the way we treat each other in small moments, the quiet, invisible choices we make when no one's watching, those are the ones that matter most. And sometimes, the only way to draw a boundary is to lock a door, even if it means someone has to sit outside and wait until they finally understand why it was closed in the first place.